Bad people rarely reveal their true face right away. They wear masks, they play roles, and they know how to blend in. But here's the truth. Human behavior always leaves a pattern, and if you pay attention, you'll never fall into their trap. The problem is, most people don't want to see the signs. They ignore the red flags because they want to believe the best in others. That's how people get hurt. In my world, ignoring those patterns was never an option. Danger doesn't announce itself. It slips in quietly, testing you, waiting for you to drop your guard. The first thing you'll notice is lying. Big lies, small lies, it doesn't matter. Someone who lies once will lie again, because dishonesty is a habit, not a mistake. Then comes manipulation. They twist your words, make you doubt yourself, and suddenly you're apologizing for things you didn't even do. They avoid accountability, shifting blame and playing the victim. And watch how they treat your boundaries. When you say no, and they push anyway, that's all you need to know. Jealousy creeps in next, disguised as concern or subtle digs, but it always reveals resentment. Then there's the forced charm, the too good to be true persona meant to win you over fast. But words and actions rarely align, and inconsistency is a clear signal of deception. And the final, most dangerous trait? A lack of empathy. No guilt, no remorse, no care for the damage they cause. Bad people rarely reveal themselves in the beginning. They come across as charming, polite, maybe even generous. But that's just the mask. Human behavior always leaks patterns, and if you're paying attention, those patterns will tell you exactly who you're dealing with. The problem is, too many people ignore the warning signs because they want to see the good. They convince themselves that little things don't matter, that maybe it was just a mistake, maybe it was stress, maybe it was nothing. That's how danger works. It hides behind excuses. I've seen it over and over again. When you've been in situations where your survival depends on reading people fast, you learn something important. People always reveal themselves, and usually in the smallest ways first. A lie that seems harmless, a joke that feels a little too sharp, someone who doesn't hear no the first time you say it. That's not random, that's data. Every behavior is a signal, and when you start connecting those signals, the picture becomes clear. Bad people test you early. If you ignore the first test, they push harder. And by the time most people realize what's happening, the damage has already been done. Bad people rarely introduce themselves as bad. They don't walk into your life announcing their true intentions. They don't come with a warning label. Instead, they present the version of themselves they want you to see. Polished, likable, convincing. But no matter how carefully they hide, human behavior leaves patterns. And once you know how to recognize those patterns, you'll see the truth they're trying so hard to conceal. Too often, people ignore these red flags. They excuse them, they rationalize them, they tell themselves it's not a big deal. That's exactly how you get trapped. The difference between people who get fooled and people who protect themselves is simple: awareness. You have to be willing to see what's in front of you, even if you don't like what it means. The first and most obvious sign is lying. Now, people think lying only matters when it's big, when it's about cheating, stealing, or betrayal. But the truth is, small lies matter just as much. Every lie is a window into someone's character. If a person is willing to bend the truth about little things, where they were, who they were with, what they said, they're showing you that honesty is negotiable to them. And once honesty is negotiable, everything else is on the table. Bad people lie not just to hide what they're doing, but to test you. They want to see if you'll let it slide, if you'll doubt your instincts, if you'll accept less than the truth. And the moment you do, you've taught them that lying works. The next sign is manipulation. This is not always loud or obvious. It can come in subtle ways, twisting your words so you question yourself, making you feel guilty for setting boundaries, turning the focus back on you every time you try to hold them accountable. This is what gaslighting looks like in real time. You start out confident in your perspective, but after a few conversations, you're wondering if maybe you're the one overreacting. That's exactly where they want you. Because once they get you doubting your own perception, they can control the story. Bad people don't manipulate by accident. It's deliberate, it's rehearsed, and it's designed to make you weaker while they gain more control. Another clear red flag is the refusal to take accountability. Good people make mistakes too. We all do. The difference is that good people own their mistakes. They apologize. They try to make things right. Bad people never do. They shift blame. They make excuses. Or they act like it never happened. And if they do acknowledge it, it's only because they've been caught and can't deny it anymore. Pay attention when someone consistently avoids responsibility. That's not just immaturity. It's a character flaw. And it tells you they'll never change because they don't believe they're the problem. Boundaries are another test. When you say no and someone keeps pushing, that's all you need to know about them. Respectful people hear no once, and that's enough. Disrespectful people see no as a challenge. Whether it's your time, your space, your energy, or your values, if someone ignores your limits, they're showing you who they are. Don't excuse it as persistence. Don't call it passion. Disrespect is disrespect. And once you let someone bulldoze your boundaries, they'll never stop. Jealousy and envy are signs that are often disguised as care. Maybe they frame it as concern, telling you not to aim too high because they don't want you to get disappointed. Or maybe it's subtle digs, backhanded compliments that sound supportive but cut you down at the same time. That's not care. It's envy. And envy always turns into resentment. Bad people can't celebrate your wins because your success feels like their loss. Eventually, that energy shows up as sabotage or betrayal. Then there's the charm that feels overdone. Real charm is natural, but bad people use forced charm as a weapon. They flood you with compliments, gifts, attention, anything to make you trust them faster. The goal is to lower your guard before you've had time to truly evaluate their character. If someone seems too good to be true, that's usually because they are. Authentic people don't need to oversell themselves. Another major signal is inconsistency. Listen to what people say, but watch harder what they do. When someone's actions don't line up with their words, believe the actions. Promises don't mean anything without follow-through. Inconsistency is not forgetfulness. It's dishonesty. It's the difference between the image they're selling you and the reality they're living. Bad people thrive in that gap. And finally, the most dangerous sign of all, lack of empathy. When someone shows no remorse for the pain they cause, when they can hurt others and feel nothing, you're dealing with a dangerous person. Empathy is the foundation of trust, of connection, of humanity. Without it, there's nothing stopping someone from using you, deceiving you, or destroying you if it benefits them. Lack of empathy is not just a flaw, it's a warning to protect yourself immediately. Bad people never walk into your life showing their true colors. They wear masks, they're calculated, they're deliberate. They present you with the version of themselves they want you to believe. And in the beginning, it can be convincing. Charm, politeness, maybe even generosity. But no matter how much they try to hide, behavior always leaves a trail. People give themselves away if you're paying attention. The danger comes when you ignore the little things, when you convince yourself that the uneasy feeling you have doesn't matter. That's how they get in. That's how they test you. And if you don't catch the signs early, by the time you realize who you're really dealing with, the damage is already done. The first sign is dishonesty. Lying is the foundation of every toxic relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny lie or a massive deception. If someone chooses to lie, they've already shown you their integrity is compromised. People who lie do it not just to cover up, but to measure you. They want to see how easily you accept falsehoods. And if you let it go once, you've told them you're someone they can keep deceiving. The second sign is manipulation. And this one is powerful because it doesn't just come at you directly. It sneaks in. Manipulation is when someone makes you feel guilty for protecting your boundaries. It's when they twist your words until you start questioning your own memory of the conversation. They make you feel like the problem for simply standing your ground. This is how gaslighting works. It disorients you. You start out knowing exactly what happened, but after enough back and forth, you begin to wonder if maybe you misread the situation. Manipulators want you confused because when you're confused, you're easier to control. They want you doubting yourself, so you lean on them for clarity, for validation. That's power for them. And make no mistake, manipulation is always about power. Then comes the refusal to take responsibility. A healthy person can admit when they're wrong. They can own their mistakes and try to make it right. But when you're dealing with someone toxic, they'll never hold themselves accountable. They'll blame someone else. They'll deny it happened. Or they'll turn the story around so suddenly you find yourself defending them. That's not just immaturity, that's avoidance. And avoidance means nothing will ever change, because how can someone fix a problem they don't believe they have? Watch how they handle your boundaries. A simple no is enough for a decent person, but bad people see no as a challenge. They push, they pressure, they act like your limits don't matter. That's a test of control, and once you give in, even just a little, you've taught them they can keep pushing, keep taking, keep disregarding what matters to you. Jealousy is another mask they wear. Sometimes it comes off as concern, other times it slips out in a joke, a backhanded comment, or a subtle put-down. But underneath, it's envy. And envy is dangerous because it grows. These people don't want to see you win. They see your success as their loss. And sooner or later, that energy turns into resentment. And resentment always leads to betrayal. Pay attention also to forced charm. Real charm is effortless, but false charm feels exaggerated, too sweet, too generous, too fast. When someone showers you with praise or attention before they even know you, it's not genuine. It's strategy. They want to earn your trust quickly so you don't look too closely at who they really are. That's why too good to be true is usually exactly that. Inconsistency is another glaring red flag. Words mean nothing without action. Pay attention when someone's behavior doesn't line up with their promises. They'll say one thing but do the opposite. That inconsistency is not forgetfulness. It's deception. Bad people live in the gap between what they say and what they actually do, and that gap is where they hide the truth. And the most dangerous sign of all is lack of empathy. When someone can hurt another person and feel nothing, no remorse, no guilt, no care for the consequences, that's when you know exactly who you're dealing with. Empathy is what keeps us human. Without it, there's no limit to how far someone will go if it benefits them. That's why this sign is the ultimate warning. One of the clearest signs of bad people is that they never take responsibility. Pay attention to this because it will save you from a lot of pain. Good people, strong people, own their mistakes. They know when they've hurt someone, and they have the courage to admit it, apologize, and make things right. But bad people? They do the opposite. They dodge accountability like their life depends on it. They will twist a story so that suddenly you're the one at fault. They'll blame their childhood, their boss, the stress they're under, or even you. Any excuse to avoid looking in the mirror. Think about what that really means. If someone cannot admit when they are wrong, they are incapable of growth. They are incapable of change. Because how can you change something you refuse to acknowledge? That's why dealing with this type of person is like being stuck on a loop. They'll hurt you, deny it, shift the blame, and then repeat the cycle. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe them. You'll catch yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, defending yourself against accusations that aren't even real. That's how their lack of accountability becomes your burden. This behavior also reveals entitlement. People who never take responsibility believe the rules don't apply to them. They expect others to clean up their mess, to accept their excuses, to carry the weight of their poor decisions. And the longer you let that dynamic continue, the more power you give them. Because accountability is not just about saying, "I'm sorry." It's about respecting the impact of your actions. If a person refuses to do that, they are showing you exactly how little they respect you. It can be subtle at first. They forget something important, and instead of apologizing, they blame you for not reminding them. They raise their voice, then claim you're too sensitive. They break a promise, but somehow it's your fault for expecting too much. Little by little, their excuses chip away at your confidence until you begin to doubt yourself more than you doubt them. And once you're in that space, they control the narrative. This is why accountability is such a critical sign to watch for. It separates people who are capable of healthy relationships from people who will drain you dry. You can forgive mistakes, you can work through challenges, but you cannot build trust with someone who refuses to stand by their words and actions. When accountability is absent, respect is absent. And when respect is absent, nothing good can grow. Another powerful indicator of bad people is their blatant disregard for boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. They're not suggestions, they're non-negotiables. They define where you end and another person begins. And when someone ignores or tramples over those lines, they're showing you their true character. Respectful people understand boundaries instinctively. You say no once, and that's enough. You say you're not available, and they respect your space. But toxic people? They see boundaries as obstacles to push past, not limits to respect. To them, every no is just a challenge. This can start subtly. Maybe you tell someone you're busy, yet they keep calling or texting. Maybe you say you're not comfortable with a certain conversation, and they press anyway. Maybe you tell them what you need, and they dismiss it as overreacting. Every one of those moments is a test. They're watching to see how firm you'll be, whether you'll hold your line or give in. And here's the hard truth. The moment you bend, they learn they can keep pushing. What begins with small intrusions grows into full-scale violations of your time, privacy, and emotional well-being. Boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about teaching people how to treat you. If someone repeatedly ignores those lines, they're telling you they don't value your autonomy, they don't respect your voice, and if they don't respect your boundaries now, they certainly won't respect them later when the stakes are higher. This is how manipulation and control begin. First, it's about something small, borrowing money, demanding your attention, forcing you into conversations you didn't ask for. But over time, it becomes bigger. Decisions about your life, your career, your relationships. Bad people push until they own more and more of your space, leaving you feeling suffocated, powerless, and drained. And let's be clear, healthy people welcome boundaries. They see them as clarity, as honesty. They know that if you tell them where your limits are, they can trust you to honor theirs as well. But toxic people interpret boundaries as rejection, as defiance. That's why they resist them. That's why they try to convince you that you're too strict, too sensitive, or too demanding. They want you to believe you're the problem for daring to protect yourself. That's not just disrespect, that's control dressed up as criticism. The more you allow boundary violations, the more you train a bad person to take. And the more they take, the less space you have for yourself. That's why holding firm is not just about keeping peace with others. It's about protecting your identity, your values, and your sanity. Boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. Jealousy and envy are two of the most poisonous traits you'll ever encounter in a person, and bad people carry them like weapons. These emotions are not always obvious at first. They can wear disguises. Sometimes they show up as fake concern, sometimes as subtle sarcasm, and other times as a joke that doesn't feel like a joke. But underneath, it's the same thing. Resentment over what you have, who you are, and what you're building. Instead of being inspired by your success or happy for your progress, they see it as a personal threat. They can't celebrate you because to them, your wins feel like their losses. In the beginning, it might sound harmless. You share good news, and instead of genuine excitement, you get a lukewarm response or a dismissive comment. Maybe you've heard phrases like, must be nice, or don't get too ahead of yourself. These are not casual remarks. These are signs of envy leaking out. A person who truly supports you will encourage you to grow, will cheer for you when you succeed, and will never make you feel guilty for aiming higher. But a toxic person cannot stand the idea of you rising because it reminds them of everything they are not. What makes envy so dangerous is that it doesn't stay small. Over time, it grows into bitterness. A jealous person doesn't just want what you have, they want to see you lose it. They may disguise their hostility with fake support, but their actions will tell the truth. They may start minimizing your achievements, spreading subtle negativity about you to others, or creating drama just to drag you down. And if you ignore the signs, it can escalate into betrayal. Some of the worst betrayals in life don't come from strangers. They come from people who quietly envied you while pretending to stand beside you. This is why you have to learn to separate genuine care from hidden envy. A supportive person will set their ego aside to see you shine. They don't feel smaller because you're doing well. They feel proud to be connected to you. But a jealous person can't handle that. They may smile to your face, but behind the scenes, they're hoping you stumble. That's why it's critical to listen carefully to how people react when you share your victories. Do they uplift you, or do they immediately shift the spotlight back to themselves? Do they encourage you, or do they plant seeds of doubt? Those small reactions are windows into how they truly feel. Remember, jealousy is never about you. It's about their own insecurity. But when it lives inside someone toxic, it can become a weapon aimed at you. You cannot ignore it because jealousy left unchecked always turns into resentment, and resentment turns into action. Bad people don't just envy quietly. They look for opportunities to undermine you, to chip away at your confidence, and to keep you from becoming everything they secretly fear you will become. Charm that feels forced is one of the most deceptive tools a bad person can use, and it's often the first thing that draws you in before their true intentions appear. Unlike natural charm, which flows effortlessly from confidence and authenticity, forced charm is calculated, deliberate, and designed to manipulate. It shows up in ways that feel a little too polished, a little too intense, a little too fast. Compliments come too quickly. Gifts are given before any real connection exists, and attention is lavished in a way that seems almost strategic. It's not about genuinely getting to know you. It's about lowering your defenses before you even realize you have them up. This kind of charm is almost like an audition. They want to make sure you like them, trust them, and rely on them immediately. They want to appear perfect, irresistible, and indispensable, because the more you admire them early on, the more likely you are to overlook the small inconsistencies and warning signs that will appear later. Forced charm is a test. They're measuring your susceptibility, gauging how quickly they can earn your trust, and determining which buttons to push to make you compliant. Pay close attention to the timing and intensity. Real kindness doesn't rush. Real compliments don't feel rehearsed. Real interest doesn't pressure you to reciprocate immediately. But forced charm often overwhelms your senses. They'll compliment your appearance, your intelligence, your skills, even your personality, in a way that feels almost scripted. They'll push boundaries with smiles and charm to see how much they can get away with. The goal is always control, not connection. Another sign of forced charm is inconsistency. It may feel genuine at first, but their words and actions rarely align. Someone may promise loyalty, support, or shared goals, but their behaviors often contradict those promises. The charm is meant to mask these inconsistencies, to distract you from the gaps between what they say and what they actually do. And because it's wrapped in flattery and attention, you may rationalize or dismiss your gut feelings. That's exactly what they're counting on. Forced charm is also emotionally manipulative. By making you feel special, chosen, or admired, they create a sense of obligation or dependency. You may start to invest emotionally before you've had a chance to evaluate their character fully. That initial admiration becomes a lever for influence later on, and once you've allowed yourself to be invested, they gain power over you. The charm is no longer harmless. It's a tool to manipulate your perceptions, your decisions, and your reactions. The key to recognizing forced charm is to step back and observe. Notice whether the kindness feels authentic or rehearsed, whether attention is given freely or strategically, and whether promises are followed by actions. People who are genuinely good at connecting don't need to manufacture charm. They are naturally engaging and confident. Forced charm, on the other hand, is a warning sign. It's a signal that someone is attempting to manipulate, control, or deceive. And the earlier you recognize it, the safer you are. Inconsistent actions and words are one of the clearest signs that someone is not to be trusted. Bad people often say one thing while doing another, and this gap between their promises and their behavior is not accidental, it's deliberate. Words are easy to manipulate. They can tell you exactly what you want to hear. Actions, on the other hand, are harder to fake, and they reveal intentions and priorities far more honestly than any speech ever could. If someone constantly contradicts themselves, it's a signal that their words are designed to mislead, distract, or control you rather than reflect reality. Pay attention to patterns rather than isolated incidents. One missed promise or forgotten detail might just be human error, but repeated discrepancies are evidence of character. Someone might tell you they care about your time, but constantly arrive late or cancel plans at the last minute. They may promise loyalty or support, yet their behavior consistently undermines you, leaves you unsupported, or contradicts the commitments they've made. These gaps erode trust over time and reveal that reliability and integrity are not qualities they prioritize. Inconsistency also plays a psychological role in manipulation. When someone's words and actions do not align, they create confusion. You start questioning your own judgment, wondering if you misunderstood the situation or if you're overreacting. This is often intentional. By keeping you uncertain, they maintain control over the narrative and over your response. The more you rationalize their contradictory behavior, the more power they gain. They rely on your willingness to excuse, to overlook, or to forgive inconsistencies because it shows them exactly how much they can get away with. Another form of this behavior shows up in promises about the future. Someone may say, "I'll always have your back," or "I'll never let that happen to you." But their actions fail to reflect that commitment. Over time, you start to notice a pattern of unreliability, and that pattern is not only frustrating, it is revealing. It shows their true priorities, which rarely include you. When words and actions are out of sync, the person's intentions become transparent if you watch carefully. It's also important to note that inconsistent behavior is not limited to small matters. It can escalate into serious breaches of trust. Someone might lie about minor things, exaggerate stories, or misrepresent facts. And because they've trained you to doubt your own judgment, it becomes easy to excuse or overlook these early inconsistencies. This is a strategy, not an accident. They test the boundaries of your trust, seeing how much you'll accept before questioning their integrity. Recognizing the mismatch between what someone says and what they do requires observation, patience, and self-trust. It's about being honest with yourself and refusing to rationalize repeated contradictions. Consistent actions create trust. Inconsistent actions destroy it. And when you see this pattern, you are witnessing a red flag in real time. Lack of empathy is perhaps the most dangerous trait a person can have, and it is also one of the most telling signs of a toxic individual. People who lack empathy do not feel the weight of their actions on others. They can hurt, deceive, or manipulate without remorse, without a second thought, and without consideration for consequences. They operate with a self-centered worldview where their needs, desires, and ambitions always come first, and everyone else is merely a tool or obstacle in their path. When someone consistently disregards the feelings of those around them, it's a red flag that they are incapable of genuine connection or ethical behavior. At first, it may not be obvious. Someone without empathy can appear charming, engaging, or even supportive. They may offer help, give advice, or seem to listen attentively. But these moments are often strategic rather than sincere. The key difference is what happens when their actions affect you negatively. Do they acknowledge your feelings? Do they apologize or attempt to make amends? Or do they dismiss, minimize, or outright ignore the impact of what they've done? A person who lacks empathy will rarely, if ever, feel guilt. They may rationalize harm or shift the blame, but they will not internalize responsibility or show genuine concern for your experience. This absence of empathy also manifests in how they handle conflict. In disagreements, they are rarely interested in understanding your perspective. Instead, they focus on winning, controlling the narrative, or proving themselves right. Emotional manipulation becomes a tool to control you rather than a means to resolve the issue. Their inability to step outside themselves and consider your reality creates an uneven dynamic where your feelings are secondary to their objectives. People who lack empathy often test boundaries in subtle ways. They may make jokes at your expense, offer backhanded compliments, or exploit vulnerabilities to gain leverage. They don't feel guilt because, in their minds, no harm has been done. They see only what they can gain from each interaction. And if you challenge them or express hurt, they may react with irritation or impatience, further proving their inability to connect emotionally. Another way to recognize this trait is by observing patterns over time. A single incident might be dismissed as carelessness or stress, but repeated disregard for others' emotions is a pattern that cannot be ignored. They will repeat behaviors that are harmful because empathy is not something they possess. It is not in their toolkit. Their decisions are always self-serving, and their relationships are transactional, not mutual. Understanding lack of empathy is crucial because it allows you to protect yourself before significant harm occurs. People with this trait will test limits, push boundaries, and exploit weaknesses without concern for the fallout. They do not see the world as interconnected with the lives of others. They see it as a stage where their needs are paramount. Recognizing this trait early is a form of self-preservation. You learn to trust your instincts when something feels off, to watch for patterns of indifference, and to assess the cost of engaging with someone who cannot or will not care about your feelings. Understanding the psychology behind bad people is key to protecting yourself because their behaviors are rarely random. Every lie, every manipulation, every boundary violation serves a purpose. These patterns are strategic. They are tests designed to see how much control they can exert over you and how far they can push before you push back. Toxic people operate by probing your reactions with small infractions first. A minor lie here, a subtle manipulation there, a small disregard for your boundaries. It's all a way for them to measure your limits. And if you allow even one small transgression to slide, you are inadvertently teaching them what they can get away with. It's important to recognize that these behaviors are not accidental. They are deliberate, rooted in a lack of empathy, entitlement, and a desire for power. Narcissistic and manipulative individuals thrive on the imbalance of control. They want to see you questioning yourself, doubting your instincts, and second-guessing your decisions. The more you tolerate inconsistencies, excuses, or subtle violations, the more confident they become that they can manipulate larger areas of your life. They are constantly observing, calculating, and adjusting their tactics based on your responses. Psychologically, bad people are drawn to those who are empathetic, kind, or trusting because these traits make it easier for them to exploit and manipulate. They don't approach relationships with mutual respect or reciprocity in mind. They approach them as a game, with moves designed to test, control, and ultimately gain leverage. The small tests you encounter early on are indicators of their strategy. They are not harmless. They are training you, measuring your patience, and determining how much influence they can gain over your decisions and emotions. Recognizing these patterns early is essential. Once you understand their psychological playbook, you can separate instinct from manipulation, detect the red flags before they escalate, and take proactive steps to protect yourself without being caught in their cycle. Trusting your gut is not just a cliché, it's a survival tool. Your instincts are built from years of experience, observation, and subtle cues that your conscious mind may not even recognize. When something feels off, it almost always is. That uneasy feeling, the slight hesitation, the voice in the back of your mind telling you to pay attention, listen to it. Bad people rely on you ignoring that internal warning. They know that if you rationalize your discomfort, if you excuse what doesn't feel right, you give them permission to push further. Your gut is your first line of defense, and trusting it is the difference between empowerment and being manipulated. Boundaries are another essential line of defense. When you clearly define your limits and enforce them consistently, you send a message that you are not negotiable. Saying no is not rude. It's necessary. Every time you allow someone to cross your boundaries, even slightly, you teach them that it's acceptable. Toxic individuals test these lines constantly. They push, they probe, and they calculate how far they can go. Holding firm is not about being harsh. It's about protecting your energy, your time, and your peace. A strong boundary is a form of self-respect that communicates clearly. Your needs, your space, and your values are not up for debate. Do not ignore red flags because of emotions or loyalty. Often, bad people are skilled at creating confusion, guilt, or attachment. They will charm you, manipulate your sense of empathy, and make you feel obligated to give them the benefit of the doubt. But ignoring repeated patterns, rationalizing behaviors, or hoping someone will change only gives them power. Recognize the signs early, act decisively, and protect yourself from escalation. Excuses and justifications only prolong exposure to manipulation and emotional harm. Protecting yourself also means being intentional about the people you allow into your life. Surround yourself with those who respect your boundaries, align with your values, and inspire growth rather than diminish it. Observe carefully how people respond to your needs, your honesty, and your success. Those who react with envy, disregard, or manipulation are not worthy of your trust or energy. Your time is finite, and allowing toxic individuals to drain it is a choice you don't have to make. Action is the key. Trust your instincts without hesitation, reinforce your boundaries consistently, and never make excuses for patterns that feel wrong. These steps are not reactive. They are proactive measures to maintain control over your life, your peace, and your emotional well-being. Recognize, respond, and remove yourself from situations and relationships that compromise your values, security, or self-respect. Empower yourself by listening, observing, and acting decisively. Your gut, your boundaries, and your awareness are your strongest tools against manipulation. Learning to trust them fully ensures that bad people cannot exploit you, control you, or diminish your life. Each decision to honor yourself, to respect your limits, and to act when something feels wrong is a statement of strength, clarity, and self-preservation. By committing to these principles, you reclaim power in every interaction and prevent toxic individuals from dictating the terms of your life.